there were two specific instances that really drove me to look for something different. So first was a patient. So I had I'm a pediatrician. It was a 17-year-old patient who was actually the son of one of our employees, my patient, and he had some mental health issues. And I was doing an adequate job of taking care of him. I was following all the guidelines and doing everything I was supposed to do. But I also had a practice that required me to see patients about every 5 to 7 minutes.
That sounds fun.
Challenging to do, right? So he overdosed and died. It was one of those realizations of hey, if we had a different way to play the game, would this outcome have happened? The second one was practice got really involved in the NCQA's Patient-Centered Medical Home Initiative, which is kind of this program that's designed for practices, kind of medium to large practices, to put a lot of population health tools into place, then really start collaborating with various payers to modernize the practice, do things a bit differently to increase our payments from what we were doing. And so I worked really hard for a couple of years to really streamline the practice, doing a lot of population health sort of things. And we were able to drive up revenue pretty considerably. And it was, I kind of took a step back. I said, well, I'm putting all this creative energy into this and we're getting paid better. And I'm really confident that our patient care didn't improve any.
Welcome to the Precision Medicine Made Simple podcast, where we simplify the complex world of precision medicine. We're here to explore how personalized healthcare can empower you to understand and improve your health to live a longer and healthier life. Join us as we break down the latest in medical science into actionable insights. Let's make precision medicine accessible and actionable for everyone. This episode is sponsored by Biography Health, where DNA-powered healthcare is designed just for you. Biography Health is a HIPAA-compliant precision medicine platform that equips providers with AI-driven recommendations powered by your genetics, health history, and clinical insights, all while keeping data private, secure, and independent from large EHR systems. If you're a provider ready to bring precision medicine into your practice, visit biographyhealth.com to learn more. Or if you're a patient who wants your doctor to explore this, point them our way. We'll help them bring personalized healthcare to life. As a reminder, this episode is for educational purposes only. This episode is in no way a replacement for professional health advice. Please consult with your professional primary care provider for medical advice. If at any point you feel that a topic discussed on our podcast was misrepresented, or if you have additional insights that could enhance our discussions, we wholeheartedly encourage you to reach out to us. Your feedback is invaluable in helping us improve and in ensuring our content remains both informative and reflective of the latest developments in precision medicine. Hey everybody, welcome to the Precision Medicine Made Simple podcast. I'm joined here with my co-host, Dr. Stanford. And then today we are across the country over in Missouri. Across the country, access to primary care is collapsing. Fewer doctors, longer waits, and more burnout than ever before. And our guest decided to do something about that. So after more than a decade in pediatrics, he built a model designed to realign incentives between doctors, patients, and employers, making care more affordable, accessible, and meaningful for everyone involved. Under his leadership, that model now serves more than 13,000 patients in Columbia, Missouri, through a growing network focused on solving America's primary care crisis. In 2019, he was recognized as Missouri's best young physician, and in 2021, he was honored as Entrepreneur of the Year for his leadership and innovation in healthcare. We are actually at his facility, Bigtree Medical, over here in Columbia, Missouri. Please give a warm welcome to the founder of Bigtree Medical, Dr. Adam Wheeler.
Thanks.
So, Dr. Wheeler, just to kick off the show, and in your experience, there's always a turning point at some point when somebody wants, I guess, go outside of the large healthcare system to, let's say, start their own practice. And I was wondering if you ever had a specific turning point, whether that was with a patient or during your studies or maybe a personal experience that made you want to start something yourself.
Yeah, there were two specific instances that really drove me to look for something different. So first was a patient. So I had I'm a pediatrician. It was a 17-year-old patient who was actually the son of one of our employees, who was my patient. And he had some mental health issues. And I was doing an adequate job of taking care of him. I was following all the guidelines and doing everything I was supposed to do. But I also had a practice that required me to see patients about every 5 to 7 minutes. And,
Whoa.
That sounds fun.
Challenging to do, right? So he overdosed and died. And
wow.
It was one of those realizations of like, hey, if we had a different way to play the game, would this outcome have happened? You know, and the second one was we got our practice got really involved in the NCQA's patient-centered medical home initiative, which is kind of this program that's designed for practices, kind of medium to large practices, to put a lot of population health tools into place, and then really start collaborating with various payers to modernize the practice, do things a bit differently to increase our payments from what we were doing. And so I worked really hard for a couple of years to really streamline the practice, doing a lot of population health sort of things. And, you know, we were able to drive up revenue pretty considerably. And it was, I kind of took a step back. I said, well, I'm putting all this creative energy into this and we're getting paid better. And I'm really confident that our patient care didn't improve any. And our metrics looked good. And the pharmaceutical companies liked us and the health insurers liked us.
Right.
But I'm not sure we were doing anything. I'm like, it's really sad that all this creative energy is going to juicing the numbers, right? As opposed to taking care of people. And so I just started exploring other care models out there and ran into the membership model of primary care, which, you know, really aligns incentives well, right? So we allow our patients to leave our practice at any time. So they pay a monthly fee and then they get unlimited care. And if we do a bad job, they're supposed to leave. And if we do a good job, they stay. And it kind of doesn't end around all of the, you know, metrics that a lot of hospital systems use to say, are the patients happy? Are we doing a good job for you as the patient? And it incentivizes us to have plenty of time to spend with people. And we embrace text messaging as like the primary way we interact with patients because that's what patients wanted, right? So just really flip the script on what's appropriate. And it's a whole lot more fun way to do it. You know, none of us went into medicine to see how good of a job we could do on our, you know, getting our number of well child checks above the threshold of 47%. Right?
Right. So what's fascinating about that is like you had this curiosity then, and it wasn't so much as driven by just data metrics, but it was like actually just this internal feeling that you weren't really improving patient care. I guess like my thought within this, I know insurance, like, yeah, you pay monthly, but do you see more patients because they pay a monthly fee with Bigtree that they feel more invested in their health then and knowing that they can leave at any point? Like, do you see more of an investment that they're actually willing to take care of themselves if they go, let's say, out of the insurance model and really try and be proactive about their health?
Yeah, so we kind of have like three cohorts of people at Bigtree. So one are those kind of folks, right, who are like, hey, I'm willing to spend a little bit of more money, you know, recurring fee, so that I know that I get quality access to people that know me and can help me be as healthy as I can be. We also have a cohort of uninsured people, right? They can't afford regular health insurance, but they have a chronic medical condition. And our $80 a month membership, which also includes all their generic meds, pretty doggone affordable way to manage diabetes or high blood pressure or ADD or something like that. And then we have this big cohort of people who are just trying to figure out affordable ways to do health insurance. And so we have some health insurance alternatives that we use. And so we have a few hundred small businesses that, you know, the owners of the small business and their employees have their health insurance through a stack that includes Bigtree as the key component. So there's kind of different groups, but one of those is definitely the cohort you're talking about.
And so forgive me for just being a little bit more newer to this, but like in learning the concierge model, there's a lot of intimate relationships that you build with your patients. And what's so fascinating with Bigtree is that you serve thousands of patients then. How do you maintain the intimacy that you have with your patients? I mean, at scale, because I mean, to be completely honest, I haven't heard many people do and accomplish what you've done at all. I mean, really, this is kind of like one of the first times I've ever heard something like that.
Yeah. So, you know, the terms that most of us use, and we use both terms, but most people talk about concierge medicine being practices, they're usually a few hundred patients per doctor, usually a pretty high annual retainer. Sometimes they bill insurance as well. Direct primary care, which is what we usually refer to ourselves, and importantly, new federal legislation refers to us as that too. Usually a lower price point, somewhere in the $70 to $150 a month range. Bit bigger panels, so think 800 to 1,000 patients per provider. But yeah, so I mean, of the direct primary care doctors and clinics in the country, there are only less than a dozen that are in the scale range that we're at.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. I think a lot of doctors get into direct primary care because it's a better way to practice medicine, which it is, right? Like I have more time for my patients. My revenue stream is smoother, but it's also a better way to care for patients. And those are not the same thing, right? So I got into it because I thought the membership model was a better way for my patients to receive care. So the big change there is we took investors, right? So most doctors, once they get to a place where they're like, I've got all the people I can handle, they cap their practice. And they might have a friend, and so it's a 1 or 2 doctor group. Whereas we took investors, we said, we're specifically trying to scale this. We also use nurse practitioners. Missouri is a primary care shortage state. 111 of the 114 counties in Missouri are primary care shortage areas, right? So there are about 1 million Missourians who can't get into primary care. At the local large health system, the first available appointment in primary care is 6 months from now. Right? And that's crazy. If you decide you want to get your depression treated, it's 6 to 9 months.
You just got to hold off until then.
Right? I mean, that's insane. So
yeah,
we said, doctors can't do this. I love primary care doctors. I am one. But there's aren't enough humans out there who have finished medical school and residency that can do this. And so, the data says nurse practitioners do an amazing job. If you do the research, they do as good of a job as I can, better on certain things for certain reasons. And so we said, hey, let's get them in the game.
How do you vet nurse practitioners then? I mean, with the bar and standard, I guess, of being a little bit lower than, let's say, becoming a doctor, then how do you make sure that they also have the best care and of equal, maybe even better than, as you mentioned, for their patients? Then?
Yeah. So for us, we specifically like nurse practitioners who have never worked anywhere before.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right.
So we have myself and Dr. Calhoun, who's a board-certified family medicine doctor. Our main jobs are to coach and teach and train nurse practitioners. Right. And then we have an army of nurse practitioners who are actually caring for patients. And Dr. Calhoun and I have some patients too, but our main job is to create the systems, both clinical systems, like how to play the diabetes game, but also the financial systems so that they can do a good job. So, we have weekly teaching rounds. We have, Dr. Calhoun sits in the room with the nurse practitioners so they can always be bouncing things off of her. And so, so we want people who have never worked anywhere before, so they don't have bad habits in healthcare.
Right.
And they need to be nice. Right. I feel like I can teach most nurse practitioners how to practice medicine, but I can't teach how to be nice. And so we frequently need to remove people who are not over the top patient centric.
Yeah, that's interesting because Dr. Stanford and I were having a conversation about this yesterday with it seems like that's going to be a trend where there's going to be a lot more nurse practitioners than people employing them to be part of their practice. But then there's just the challenge of how do you still maintain the quality of care that you're going to be given. So.
Well, when Dr. Stanford and I both chose primary care specialties, you're internal medicine boarded.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. We chose to half our salaries for the rest of our lives. Right. So if you would have chosen orthopedic surgery or I had chosen anesthesiology, right, just odds are our salary would have been double what we would have made had we just gone into a regular practice. And so that's a real phenomenon. Right. And so as people are out there choosing specialties, that's a piece of it. And there's a shortage of specialists too. So, if you're an average med school graduate, it's an economic decision to some degree.
Yeah.
It definitely pays to be entrepreneurial. If it's like Dr. Wheeler, you have to find a way to make this work. I don't know, when you're talking to younger people that are thinking about medicine and they hear all these issues, 7 to 10 minutes per patient, a broken healthcare system, a sick care system, effectively. They ask, why would I want to do this? And the answer is that it's really, it's still the greatest job in the world. The problem is you have to think outside the box and be a little entrepreneurial to make it work. And you have to carve your own way and do it differently than what the system would drive you toward.
So speaking of entrepreneurial, with you scaling to like 13,000 patients, definitely not by accident, right? There was a conversation that Bill and I had where you were mentioning how like you even look through and you have like a very specific set of labs you like to do for your patients and you're looking to like standardize that and you're always doing research then. Like, what do you think are some of the differentiating factors like within your practice and how you compare to, let's say, like other practices where you just try and stay ahead of the curve and, trying to give the best care for your patients for what's available out there?
Well, the direct pay model absolutely changes your incentives as a doctor. Right? So if I've got patients who are out there reading about these advanced lab panels on Instagram, right, it's in my best interest to at least address that, right? Either by saying, hey, this is a dumb idea for the following reasons, or to create a program to allow them to do that with us at hopefully a more affordable price, right? If I'm in a traditional healthcare system, I've got a line a mile long of people sitting out there to see me. I have no incentive to do anything that the patients actually care about, right? There's got a line 6 months, wait list for 6 months, right? I could just literally go in and refer everybody to a specialist, do the easy stuff, bill a 99213 or 99214, and on to the next patient. And I played that game. I know how to do it. I was really good at it, but it's really a broken system at its core.
Yep.
You mentioned patients coming in and just like showing advanced lipid panels then or lab panels then. What are some other things that the patients are typically coming in? Like, do you see any trends that, let's say, patients are seeing on Instagram or TikTok that they keep coming to you and then you're starting to explore? Like, what are some of those other aspects or avenues that you've been looking at?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Peter Attia stuff has been super popular. Okay. And he and a lot of people who are running a parallel system to that are talking a lot about testosterone replacement, right? Which is something that I was always against when I was part of the traditional healthcare system and got outside of it, reread the research, and I'm like, why are we not doing this, right? So we have a big testosterone replacement program at Bigtree, which was part of my repentance from my old way of practicing this, right?
Same here.
We do Botox in clinics. We sent one of our providers to do Botox training because our patients wanted it. And as a clinic of our size, we can buy Botox relatively affordably. We do a lot of advanced lab panels, taking a nod from some of the functional medicine folks of saying, okay, well, let's learn more about your homocysteine and your Lp(a) and your fasting insulin level, right? Which is something that officially you're not supposed to do. I think our partnership with Biography Health is another great example of that, of saying, hey, let's understand your genetics, right? Let's see what fight you're fighting, right? If you've got super high risk of Alzheimer's in your genetic profile, okay, great. That is your fight. Let's learn everything we can about what we can do to prevent Alzheimer's. Adding that in as a piece to our practice, even for patients who aren't using it, see it as it helps brand us as the type of practice who's ready to think forwardly. And so even patients who come to us for their ADD management, because nobody else in town manages adult ADD, like the fact that we have this other suite of things we're offering. Right. We do IV fluids here in the office. So we took a page out of the IV clinics in town and said, like, we can get a bag of fluids. I mean, bag of fluids costs us $1, right? And we can sell it for 100 times that and still be cheaper than the place down the street. So these are things that people are interested in. They're safe. They have some value to them. And so why are we not embracing this?
Yeah. So, I heard peptides as well. I heard you guys also do peptides, right?
Yep. And I mean, peptides are a great example of something that have some data, right, that's positive. There's a lot of anecdotal reports about it being hugely helpful.
Yeah.
And they're really safe. So the mainstream medicine would never touch that because the Endocrine Society is saying not to, for example. But the rationale for that is really flimsy, frankly. And so we do a lot of it. Compounded custom GLP-1s is another one. So we have a few thousand patients on GLP-1s because patients are looking for a different way to approach that than the standard cookie cutter approach that, the drug manufacturers are pushing.
Compounded custom GLP? I'm not familiar with
is it terzepatide and B12 kind of thing?
Yeah. So, this is in part a legal thing. So,
okay.
Terzepatide and semaglutide are still under patent.
Okay.
But there's some really interesting research that shows that their way of doing it. So the terzepatide and semaglutide, they come as a pen that have fixed doses, right?
Okay.
And so you're supposed to do dose 1 for a certain amount of time, then dose 2, then dose 3 for weight loss. There's some really interesting research that shows that if you do that as a more continuum, right? So I give you a vial of terzepatide and I say, hey, let's titrate it week to week so that you have great appetite suppression. You're losing 2 pounds a week. Not saying you need to lose 2 pounds a week. And you don't have side effects. And then let's mix in vitamin B6, right? Which is what we use in pregnancy to prevent nausea, right? To blunt that nausea during the first week. That we get better weight loss results. Okay. Well, of course, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are really not fans of that because they don't have that system under patent. But the courts have said that it's very legal. And so there's, a lot of clinics around that do that. And we're one of those. But it allows us to kind of tailor it in a custom way to allow patients to get an affordable custom approach to weight loss.
And well, since we're talking about weight loss, have you had a lot of patients come in about Ozempic too? And
yeah, so that's semaglutide.
Oh, okay.
So that's what we're talking about.
Oh, okay. That's what we're talking
about. GLP-1.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Putting 2 and 2 together.
And those technically are peptides.
Okay.
But most people, when they think of peptides, are thinking of the growth hormone secretagogues, NAD, which technically isn't a peptide, things like that.
I think of BCP, 157?
Which is illegal now.
Is it really?
Yeah, so you can't get that compounded anymore.
Oh.
You can get it illegally several places.
Okay. Yeah. Really?
Peptide sciences on the internet, you can get it.
Yeah, they're research grade only.
Yeah.
So you have to say you're a researcher doing research, then they'll give it to you.
Really?
It's actually banned by the FDA, right?
Yeah, it's on the do not compound list.
Yeah.
So compounders are not allowed to legally make it.
Wow. Okay. That was I didn't hear about that. Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some of those internet influencers out there, Joe Rogan and whatnot, that swear by it. And so I don't know how many times you get asked about it a week. I get
at least once a week.
Yeah. I'm going to say like virtually 75% of my patients have asked me about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and shoot, because I ruptured my patellar tendon. And so everyone was telling me oh, yeah, you should just definitely get on peptides then, or BCP 157 and you'll recover just as quick. And I was like, there was still a lot of hesitancy just because I know people were saying positive things about it, but just considering that there wasn't as much, or there wasn't a long enough duration of evidence just to be able to say.
Yeah. There's no, safety or efficacy studies in humans, which is what is always the sticking point, with a lot of peptides, but that in the face of a lot of anecdotal evidence that, might be beneficial with a low risk profile. So you have to, this Dr. Wheeler sounds like he's invoking what's called the practice of medicine, which is to do what, look at the evidence himself and, and do what's in the best interest of the patient, what he feels is in the best interest of the patient.
Yeah. And tooting both of your horns, if I was, I mean, me being a patient and not necessarily knowing anything, I'm very glad that I could know that there's a partner out there that can look on my behalf and make sure they have the best interest in mind instead of just like trusting what AI is going to be saying and me just trying to do it myself.
One concept that we use a lot that doctors are taught, but I don't think actually typically employ, is what we call shared decision making, right? So shared decision making is, if you're my patient, we sit down, we look at the data together, right? And you say, and then you make the decision, right? Now, I'm supposed to not let you do anything stupid,
Okay, right.
or illegal, but it's your decision, right? And the example we're facing right now that I'm dealing with a lot is the leucovorin autism issue. So, 2 weeks ago, the president and the Secretary of Health and Human Services came out and said, hey, we've found a cure to autism, which is this drug called leucovorin, which is a folinic acid.
Yeah, folinic acid.
They oversold it a bit. I would call it a cure, but there are 5 to 7 smaller studies that show that it makes a substantial improvement in about half of kids with autism.
Whoa. All right.
So most developmental pediatricians in the country are refusing to prescribe it. I think for a lot of political reasons, to be honest. But in my practice, it's shared decision making. So I sit down with the family and tell me about your child. Okay, so here's the research on folinic acid. I wish there were 5 studies that are 20 years long and had 10,000 people in them. Mm-hmm. Those aren't out there. So, but we do with this data, right? And we have a mechanism that's plausible about why it's helpful.
Right.
And if you would like to use it, I'm happy to prescribe it. It has basically no side effects, and it's cheap. Now, because it's cheap, it's off patent now. There aren't going to be any big trials done on it, paid for by pharmaceutical manufacturers. And so we're at this place where there may be a study that comes out in 10 or so years, but what about the families who are dealing with this now, right? Do they have the right to use this treatment if they think it's in their child's best interest after an educated person sits down with them and goes through the pros and cons? Most doctors don't play that way in reality. They just say, I refuse to prescribe this because I don't like
There's no guideline that says to do it.
There's no guideline that says to do it.
But even just in that general rooted culture, I mean, as a patient, I kind of know what the practical advice is of just like getting just the common, eat a Mediterranean diet, get more sleep, and then get exercise. But then from what it sounds like, the shared decision making, I mean, just that culture in itself, you're working with me on what could work well in my life and what I'd like to decide. And you're giving me the best information then.
Because it's actually your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's not mine.
Fair. Yeah,
right. So you should get the right to determine what you do.
Right.
Now, I wouldn't be the educated person in your corner who's helping you make decisions.
Yeah.
We deal with this with vaccines right now too. That's obviously the hot topic, and almost all the other pediatricians in this community will kick you out of the practice if you don't vaccinate. Right. In part because they get a bonus payment from the insurance companies if their patients' vaccine rates are high. Right. So they have a financial incentive to kick you out of practice if you don't vaccinate. But we don't have those insurance contracts, so I don't have any incentive I don't care. Right. Now I'm pro-vaccine, right? I vaccinated my children. I think, until more data comes out, at least the benefits of the vaccines as the CDC schedule describes outweighs the risk. That's my belief.
Right.
But if it's your kid, right, I feel my job is to sit down and help you set up the equation. Right? Here's the side effects. Here's the research. Here's the costs. Here's the unknowns.
Yeah.
But, I'm a nerdy math guy. So I think of this as like each of these variables has like a coefficient, right? Which includes your values and how much you believe the data, right?
So it's Bayesian reasoning.
Exactly. A Bayesian approach.
If you say, all right, I see this data, but because it was all paid for by the vaccine manufacturers, I don't trust that as much as you do, Dr. Wheeler. So that big benefit is going to go down in your mind, right? And so you may come to a different decision about vaccines than I do, but you'll still be my patient, right? And I will still help you navigate those waters, even if we disagree about the the actual care that's being provided.
That's a refreshing approach. Bill, you had a question.
I just think all through this, there ought to be a warning. Don't try to do this without a doctor, because a lot of people ask AI and they just read it and they do it. But doctors exist for a reason, and you guys are great doctors. You're trying to help patients, but I cringe anytime I hear somebody just takes AI and does it themselves. So, and there's companies out there that seem to want to go around the medical system instead of help you guys do a better job. So any thoughts on those kind of things? Like, I'll just throw Function Health out there.
Yes, I think Function Health is an example. HIMSS is another great example. So they do a lot of medical weight loss, very similar to what we do. It's basically a set of check boxes, right? So you don't actually have a meeting with a provider. So you do the check boxes, the provider gets a printout, they say yay or nay, you get the medicine in the mail, right? All of our GLP-1s are a relationship between somebody on my team and the patient, right? Where we can actually have a conversation. I think GLP-1s are actually very safe medications. I'm super grateful that they've been invented and are in the market, because we didn't have a solution for obesity for so many years, right? But as an individual, I'm not objective about my own health, right? And most people don't have the context that somebody that's gone to medical school and residency has. And there's just, even if you dive deep into a disease that, like, let's say it's obesity, and you do a deep dive into GLP-1s, you know everything about them, which you can do now with AI, right? You still don't have the context to understand all the other things that are going into that final decision.
Well, I add on. So a lot of people think it's maybe cheaper to do it on their own. So they buy Function Health, they do AI for free. How much more does it cost? Or does it actually cost less, Dr. Wheeler, to have you do your set of labs and them and you confer with them? Is that 5 times the price?
Yeah, so we would actually be cheaper to do the exact same lab set of Function Health. So Function Health is a fascinating company. It's essentially just a Quest integration. So Quest is a national lab. That's what Function Health uses. They've got a really slick user interface, which is slick. And they order the set of labs, you get the report, and then it tells you about your labs.
It's all algorithmically driven.
Completely. So we also have a Quest integration, right, at Bigtree. We don't mark up our lab costs. So if you're a patient at Bigtree, you pay in your $80 a month membership, and then you just pay what I pay for your labs. And we get the labs for around half of what Function Health is selling them for. So we could do the same lab panel. And I would argue that they've got some things in their lab panel that shouldn't be.
Exactly. You can do it for even less than that because there's just no indication. And then a Function Health is a fairly good example. There's a lot of labs you really do need that aren't on there.
Yeah.
So, this whole one size fits all, that's all what we're trying to get away from.
So I have a question then. What are some of those labs that aren't on there that you think that we should be? I think, of course, this is very generic, right? And it's going to be personalized
I don't have the list in front of me, but and it varies from patient to patient.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So they have a thyroid peroxidase antibody on there, which I'm not a fan of doing. About 20% of the population have a thyroid peroxidase antibody, but doesn't have any problems with their thyroid. And so I'm not a huge fan of doing that, because if Bill gets that test back and he's got a positive TPO, he's going to be like, what's wrong with my thyroid? Now he's going to be chat GPTing all about his thyroid. And because thyroid symptoms are so vague, he's going to start interpreting everything's going on in his life in terms of his thyroid. And then he comes to me to ask about his thyroid, and I look at his labs and I'm like, your labs are fine. And then but he doesn't believe me because he's spent all this time talking to AI about this bad thyroid. And so I have to spend more time than that debunking his bad thoughts about his thyroid peroxidase antibody, which is, they just should never have drawn, right?
Yeah.
We should have done his LP(a), right? We should have done his ApoB. And if I remember right, the Function Health has the ApoB, but doesn't have the LP(a). And so there's just, we call our longevity set, right? Which I literally created by asking Chat GPT to tell me every lab that Peter Attia recommends on his podcast or his books.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Just created a lab set off that and then tweaked it a little bit after talking with my team. And then, for us, it's about $250. And that gets you everything I need to know about the state of your metabolism today.
Yeah.
It doesn't give me the genetic stuff that the biography health aspect gets, of course, but it does give me a really great picture of where you're at today.
And so adding biography health in there, then adding just the genetic side of it to help your patients with more of like a stronger foundation, just to be able to help what their risk is for chronic illness.
Yeah. So in understanding where your metabolic system is today is super essential.
Okay.
Right. But if you're a middle-aged person in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, you're not going to have anything that lights up there if you're at high risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Right.
Right. You're not going to have anything that lights up on your labs that I could draw today that's going to tell me much about your cancer risk. If we do a genetic sequencing and we see that your pancreatic cancer risk is in the 95th percentile, that's a big deal, right? There are no guidelines on what to do with that.
Not at all.
Right. But, you may decide it's worth it, getting shared decision making, to do a periodic MRI, right? To look at your pancreas.
I don't know what you recommend on that specific case.
Nice.
Well, there's whole body MRIs, and that's not going to pick up a pancreatic cancer soon enough to be extremely helpful most of the time. If someone is at a high risk like that, 95th plus percentile for pancreatic cancer, definitely a Gallery test would be something to do. And what's interesting about the Gallery test is there's different latencies. They did a study with the UK Biobank where they took people that went on to develop cancer, and they then looked backwards at what point would the Gallery have detected it. Makes sense?
Yeah.
And that's how they came up. And the mean of the whole thing is about 11 months. That's why they recommend it every year. But pancreatic cancer, that the latency was 6 months. So people that are at high risk for genetic risk, I do it every 6 months.
But that's an example of a test that's expensive, right? It's not free. That if you were at super high genetic risk, I'd be buying that every 6 months, right? Whereas if my key risk is in Alzheimer's disease, hopefully I don't have both, but actually, you're good. If mine is Alzheimer's disease, then I'm reading everything there is about what can I do to prevent Alzheimer's. And it's a very different conversation with a patient. If I'm having a conversation with Bill and I say, hey, Bill, you're ApoE4, this exercise protocol is really important, right? As opposed to me saying blanketly to all my patients, this exercise regimen is really important.
It adds a lot more context and a little bit more drive to the conversation.
There's a punch to that conversation, that there's a seriousness to it that really drives behavior change.
It really does. It's amazing. Because the counter argument is often, well, if you think that's an important thing to do, then why don't you just do it for everyone?
Yeah.
And that's not the world we live in now. We live in a personalized medicine world where we can understand the individual. We can understand their genetic variations, their risk that's, imparted by their family history and their lifestyle and et cetera. And target a plan directly to that. That's the world we live in.
Well, and the blanket conversation doesn't work. This does. Okay. So there's these really great series of studies in the motivational interviewing literature that shows that if I sit down with Taylor and say, Taylor, you're overweight. Okay. You should lose some weight. Okay. Let's assume you are. All right. The odds that you will gain weight is actually higher than if I had never even had the conversation with you.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So me telling you to diet and exercise decreases the probability that you will actually diet and exercise.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Wow. That's really fascinating.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that's awful.
Okay. So, but having this conversation with somebody who says, hey, your fasting insulin's running really high. You're in the 95th percentile for developing diabetes. I really think we got to work on your diet and exercise. That's a completely different conversation.
And turn the focus on that. Don't bombard them with every single thing that you could do to, optimize your wellness and longevity. You find those areas of high risk, and that's where you put your effort. And then, and maybe move on to those other areas that are at higher risk. And then again, like you gave the example of dedicated MRIs of the pancreas kind of thing, that may come to that. Interesting story in the our article in the New England Journal, where they found that people, and this was also done in the UK by the National Health Service, they found that people above the 90th percentile for prostate cancer, ultimately, when they biopsied them, 40% of them had prostate cancer, and some of them aggressive forms. So those are the kind of people you might want to go directly to a dedicated MRI with contrast of the prostate periodically. We already do that kind of thing with breast cancer. So people that are at very high risk by virtue of the BRCA, they're not even, I think they're just now starting to incorporate polygenic risk scores into that thinking. We'll get an MRI with contrast once a year. So it's just not a one size fits all. That's not the medicine of the future.
Do you ever get patients that are scared to know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As we've been talking to patients about this, not so much with the more metabolic testing, but genetic testing, absolutely. They're like, I don't really want to know. The way I try to coach them about this, and I'm sure you have different techniques too, is to say, do you want to know the fight you're fighting? Right. So for me, if Alzheimer's is the thing I'm fighting, like if that's likely what's going to get me, I want to know that so I can tailor my my lifestyle around preventing that. And then, something else will get me, right? Because we're all going to die.
Yeah.
But, I know the fight I'm fighting. Let's get it going.
I think a lot of what drives that I don't want to know is the perception there's nothing to be done about it.
Mm.
And, especially like the Alzheimer's and that you brought up. I don't know if this was out of a publication, but I heard someone put a number to it recently, and it sounded like it was out of some study that 50% of Alzheimer's is thought to be preventable with lifestyle intervention. So you mentioned outlive, and we know all those stats that Dr. Attia puts out there. People in top, and I'm kind of making this up a little bit, but to make the point, but the people in the top quintile, say, of max VO2 get significantly less Alzheimer's. People that are diabetic get significantly more. People that are overweight get more. So these are, I think that people underappreciate how much there is to be done.
I think LP-LA is another great example of that concept, right? So LP-LA,
Yep.
Which again, Peter Attia has a whole chapter dedicated to it, I think very appropriately. At least to me, he was the one that brought that story to my attention.
Yeah.
Is an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease. So if all your numbers look amazing and you're in super great shape, you still may be in a lot of trouble with if you have an LP-LA that's high. So what do you do if it's high? There's nothing you can do to make it go down. Well, you need to really optimize all of your other numbers.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got to work doubly hard. So my conversation about putting that patient on a statin is different. I'm going to be targeting different ApoB levels on a person with a high LP-LA than I am somebody that has a normal LP-LA. Right.
Sure.
And so there's nothing you can do about the LP-LA.
But that's not even completely true, because Repatha will take it down 30%. Not that that's a reason you're going to prescribe Repatha, but it may tilt you in that direction if someone has a pretty bad looking lipid profile. And the other thing is that there are those antisense oligonucleotides coming out really probably within the next 12 to 18 months. There's going to be drugs on the market that specifically target lipoprotein little a that drop it dramatically and are going to be miracle drugs. Assuming that the side effect profile, et cetera. So you absolutely want to know this stuff.
I've heard Dr. Stanford say sometimes, if you can just live a few years longer, there's a good chance they'll invent a therapy for what you have. that if you didn't live a few years longer, you couldn't have benefited from it. So can you say that more eloquently?
Well, you definitely want to be doing all those things that delay onset and slow progression of disease because of what you're saying. I think it's underappreciated right now how rapidly therapeutics are coming, and not just AI, but definitely AI-driven drug discovery, et cetera. I think is going to be a complete game changer. I think there will be already right now, if you just consider lifestyle and the medications we have, I can't think of a single condition that you wouldn't want to know. I mean, even Huntington's disease, oh, they're never going to, gene editing is not going to fix all those repeats, but lo and behold, there's treatments for that now, that are imminent. And I think at a larger scale, because of our increased understanding of cellular processes, normal cellular processes and pathophysiology, et cetera, and all the trillions of dollars, out there getting thrown at that, I think there'll be treatments we haven't even conceived of that intervene on pathways we didn't even know about as soon as 5 years from now, that are driving these diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, autoimmune, et cetera. So
I think it's a really clever argument, to be honest, because, we are getting such better treatment modalities that come out every single year. Throw rocks if we want to at Moderna's technology, but it's a really powerful tool, right, for creating custom solutions. Mm-hmm. The antisense RNA world is a really exciting system to completely change the game for a number of diseases. And what that means is if you're a 45-year-old guy like me, living to 70 versus 90, that 20-year span, thousands of these treatments are going to come out.
Yep.
Right. Just where we sit on the inflection curve on some of these molecular technologies as well as AI. So yeah, I want to be as good, I want to be in as good of shape as possible when I get to my Huntington's disease, if I know that's what I'm going to get, because odds are there's going to be an option. Yeah. And to pull the pin and throw the grenade right in the middle of the table. Also, aging itself is a very not most likely. We know that there are specific cellular pathways that the aging process follows. And as there's increased understanding of that, and keep in mind that curve is not linear, it is exponentially accelerating our understanding of it, driven by tons of money getting thrown into that. There's most likely going to be specific treatments that slow the aging process itself, even beyond the outlive Peter Attia, do those things that in personalized precision medicine, attack and slow down and detect these diseases early, et cetera. There's also going to be specific things that treat aging, I believe. I don't know. Did you agree? Absolutely. The molecular technology that the COVID vaccine, Moderna's COVID vaccine, is an example of, right? Moderna didn't develop their technology to stop COVID. When COVID hit, they realized, oh, shoot.
Yeah, we can do this.
We could make this vaccine be careful really quickly, right? It was specifically designed to target other things like individual cancer therapies, right? Where you specifically create a gene in the person's body that's attacking their cancer, right? Or you can create antisense RNA using similar technology to specifically knock out those cancer cells and nothing else. I mean, the sky is the limit, right? And if, to Dr. Stanford's point, there is just the aging genes themselves, right? As we're, within the next decade, can have a lot of really clear, much more clear understanding of that process and have the tools to target it and change it on a molecular basis. It brings up all sorts of interesting ethical questions, right? But I hope to have enough health when those things come out for me to deal with those ethical dilemmas.
That's right? The point. That's the point. So that's executing on the outlive, and the age of scientific wellness and all those, those thought leaders in our field. You want to stay as healthy and agile and vital as you can for as long as you can, because you don't know what's coming. None of us knows what's coming, except for we know lots of stuff is coming.
So I was going to say, one of the things that I can see as a potential challenge, and this is sort of, it's not a twofold question. I'll kind of describe this here, is when all of these different advancements are coming along, there's also going to be a lot more data. And from a patient perspective, if I gave, let's say, my provider a genetic test, or my genetic test results, then, it's probably going to go right into my EHR, never really going to be referenced in any way, shape, or form. Like, how do y'all think that everything can be consolidated and actually looked at? Because I think that's what's frustrating, or can be frustrating as a patient, is like, yeah, I gave this to you. I don't necessarily know if there's anything I can do about it, but here it is. And there's sort of like a lack of acknowledgement or validation that's there. So like, where do y'all see all of this data to be able to be within our own profile, to be able to be actionable about it? Do you think it's going to be within the existing EHR systems that we have now, or do you think something else is going to come about?
Loaded question. I don't know if that's a sub. Biography Health. In my practice, Beverly Hills Institute for Precision Medicine, leveraging the Biography Health platform, does exactly that. So everything we do whole genome sequencing on all of our patients, and we aggregate all this information on the platform, and we do critical analytics of it. And we can leverage AI to help structure our thinking and see what AI thinks. But ultimately, the Dr. Wheeler or myself that are employing this platform, have the final say. So at this point, but can EHRs do, I don't know. I'm very confident that this is how medicine will be practiced 10 years from now. Now, granted, they're not teaching medical students much about, do you have much exposure to medical students? They're not teaching any of this stuff. Still, certainly we weren't taught it, but I'm shocked to find out that there's very little of it that's being taught right now. It's kind of amazing.
So I'm considerably more cynical than Dr. Stanford on this.
Okay.
I think EHRs are billing platforms that have some clinical data in them.
Interesting.
Well, I don't disagree with that.
So they don't have any incentive to be able to aggregate data, let alone analyze that data. So if I'm playing the traditional fee-for-service health insurance game, I have no incentive to care what happened to you at your prior provider or what your genetic tests showed.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really going to involve two healthcare systems, right? So one that is personal, direct pay, genetics, precision medicine oriented, and then a traditional system that is paid for by your employer's health insurance. And they're going to specifically shy away from this because it isn't in the federal government's interest for you to live longer, right? It's in your interest for them to die, for you to die as quickly after 65 as you can, with hopefully at home and not in the hospital, right?
But Peter Diamandis, so he wrote an interesting article that challenges that, because I would have thought the same thing. But then he makes a pretty good case, and you think about it in the case of someone like myself. So when I was in my 20s, I was working as an engineer, flight instructor, whatever. I wasn't really paying a lot of tax at the time. Let's just say that, because I wasn't making a lot of money. And then with 10 years of medical training, MD, PhD, and 3 years of internal medicine. So probably on balance, I was pretty much a taker from the time I was, as they say, the takers, the people that pay in a lot less than they get back. Now, I just turned 65 today. Happy birthday. I am more productive than ever. And I'm certainly not on the receiving end of the goes into and comes out of kind of thing. And And I think with longevity, it's really there's potentially, Peter made this point, and so I'm borrowing from him, that the productivity of people that are, my age, right now, and I'm at the top of my game, so to speak, medically and all that. I think that, and it's not just me, but the whole cadre, of people that are, my age. If you're able to work longer, you're going to be a lot more productive. Think of like airline pilots. So they have to retire at 65. Why? I mean, why, if 65 is the new 45? Right. You don't want to lose those guys. Those are the best guys. I mean, they're the ones that, like yourself, that can teach and lead other people. They're the ones that have seen it all. So, they're going to be the safest pilots. So I think that, and we all know, I don't think we need Dr. T to tell us that retirement is not the best thing for your health, period. I think that there's the potential of people living longer and working longer, and they're going to have to in the future because of what you're saying. So no matter what the government wants, people are going to be living and working longer. I mean, longevity is going to increase. And so the more optimistic side of that if the government was smart, they would not want you dead. I think what they'll do most likely is just keep pushing that age out, and that's probably what needs to happen.
And, I think AI and robotics are going to influence that too. Right. So,
Fair.
For all the farmers who have to retire at 65 because they just physically can't get the job done anymore. It's a completely different game if they're just basically got a host of robots that are being largely controlled by AI.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, there was major shifts that are going to happen over the next, 15 to 20 years on how we're going to have to rethink what productivity is and what a normal lifespan and work span looks like.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, we all want to be as healthy as we can, as late as we can. I'm just suspicious that it's going to take the government a really long time to decide it's in their best interest.
No, your point's well taken. Momentum.
Yeah. Do you have a group of doctors in your network that think AI will replace you guys then?
I think so. My personal opinion is AI will replace some of what we do, and that there will be a tiered approach, right? So, the HIMSS story that we used earlier could be easily replaced by AI, right? It doesn't even need AI to replace it. It just needs a medical license.
I mean, AI could do a much better job than HIMSS because they might be interested in looking at the whole person instead of just trying to answer one question. Is it safe to sell them this drug? Yes or no? Yes, it's safe. Yeah.
But I think we're already seeing this in the cognitive behavioral therapy realm. There are these CBT apps that are out there. They're good, right? And they've got decent data behind them. It's so hard to find a CBT therapist, which is the gold standard for treatment for a lot of mental health conditions. They're expensive. It's time consuming. What if you could just sit there on your phone and have a conversation with AI and have those good results? I think there's going to be a generation of people, and includes my generation, that's not going to be able to trust the AI, right? So I deal with this all the time now with parents who come into my practice and they're like, well, I've already asked AI.
Okay. No, all my patients said,
that's the new, I Googled it.
Yeah. They said this.
They send you the link even,
Yeah, sometimes. But I want to hear from you.
Yeah, here's what AI says. What do you think?
Now, what if, though, we had an AI doctor that was essentially free, right? And that could prescribe medicine and make diagnoses? That there are going to be people who continue to pay money to come see people like me, but a lot of the stuff that's happening in the traditional health system could get replaced with that. And I think AI is already beating people like me on the medical boards, right? It's not surprising. It has access to the entire internet. And I could have done better if I had the internet to cheat off them too, right? But still, it's
with the internal medicine boards, it's when you do the one where you take 30 questions every 3 months or whatever, it's open book per se. So you can use UpToDate, Google, open, open evidence is really the one to use. And it gets you can just paraphrase the question, type it into open evidence, and it gives you the right answer literally 95% of the time.
Yeah. So I'm very optimistic, right? That, in a place like Missouri where we have 25% of the population that don't have access to primary care, that we will have an AI primary care doctor who is an agent functionality, so they can do care coordination. They're available 24/7, right? Which most people aren't. They do a good job of answering questions, and they're nice, right? AI is nicer than I am.
They're very complimentary.
Yeah.
You look like you passed.
Which is one of the things that you look for when you're hiring people. It's people that are really nice.
I'm very optimistic.
Yeah.
AI can quickly do it. Now, the question is, from a regulatory perspective, are they going to give, OpenAI a medical license so that it can operate outside of a relationship with a doctor? I think the American Medical Association and other people are going to rightfully push very hard on that.
And the FDA.
And it's going to take a generation for that to come through, unless there is some catastrophic event that pushes us over the edge. I think in the short run, there's a lot of things that AI can do, right? So I think in our practice, I don't have the training Dr. Stanford does, right? I can order the genetic profile, but I can't, call him and ask him what to put to answer all the questions. But I can ask AI, right? And so AI can make me.
Again, I suggest open evidence. Brother, the problem with OpenAI or even Perplexity is they're looking at the internet at large. And so you need something that can point toward trusted evidence-based stuff.
And that's what we use predominantly as well. But it makes me a world-class geneticist or gastroenterologist or whatever. And then I have an obligation to filter that and apply it to my patient and those kinds of things. I think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're also seeing, AI scribe elements, right, are huge and can be super helpful. And then what we're really interested in that we haven't found anybody that's doing yet is we do a lot of communications with our patients through a text message, right? I would love to just have an AI app that when the patient messages in, completes a response that my nurse can then check and say send, right? So it's still under her nursing license, but is more polite because my nurses get fatigue, right? And the 100th message of the day, they're starting to get tired. It can be really correct as well.
I got news for you. Your nurses are already taking that question and typing it in.
Right. But
here's flash.
What's that integrated?
Right. Okay. So it's like, it's not more just like a messaging platform, but really just like an AI agent integrated with that can consolidate all of that data. And much
like a lot of email. So I use Superhuman email, right? And it pre-completes all my emails for me.
You mean you weren't writing those nice messages to me via email? It's Superhuman?
What's it called?
It's called Superhuman. Oh, and
I have to try that one.
It answers all my emails. And then I just go through and say yes. And if it doesn't know how it should answer, it creates 2 emails.
Oh, cool.
And it says yes or no. And if I say yes, it says, "Hey, Taylor, great for hearing from you today." Right. It just has this really nice kind of email. Again, that's a thing that AI could be doing in healthcare.
Yeah.
Right. So that patients can get rapid answers to their questions. So I think before we have AI replacing me, we're going to have me enabled with AI.
First, just you increase the. I can only speak for physicians. I'm sure nurse practitioners also. It's just going to improve your productivity, your accuracy. There's a learning curve about, using AI. Of course, it's all how the question's asked, the AI prompt, et cetera. But the AI, at least as of a few months ago, or we'll say that the current era, it still gets a lot of stuff wrong. And so you need to know when it's wrong. And again, you want to make sure it's pointed at trusted sources, which is, you can also kind of fix with how you ask the question.
I sometimes it's very confidently wrong. Right?
Yeah.
And you question it and it'll double down.
Yeah. I get so frustrated when it happens.
We're not there yet, right? But I think we can all see over the horizon a bit and say, okay, we're getting right.
But it's not decades away. It's like months and years or a month or a year or 18 months at the rate that it's improving. I don't know. They talk about this AI bubble that, it's really not going to get that much better, that much faster. But I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to believe that.
And so, as forward of a thinker as you are, Dr. Wheeler, and considering all the success that you've had, what is then next, and are you looking to accomplish within Bigtree Medical?
Yeah, so what we really want to do is have a place where we bring together healthcare providers who really want to get back to just caring for patients, right? Who they're all about the patient. There are those people who are still like, I'm fine working after hours if it's for my patient, right? We want to find those people, and we want to find patients who value that, right? There are some people who are like, I want to pay as little as possible to get the script I want. Probably not going to be a good fit at Bigtree, right? But if you want to have a really great relationship, and we want those play, and then we just want to continue to be able to create space for those two kinds of people to come together. Because in the end, healthcare is about one human helping another, right? And we use the technology and the financial stuff and the buildings and, all the crap just to allow one human to take their knowledge and skills and help another person. So we just want to continue to find those people and bring them together.
Love it. And a little back note here, as you were explaining like what AI was doing, I could totally see you as being like the Iron Man, like you had like the Iron Man suit, like with your glasses.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. But anyways, well, Dr. Wheeler, thank you so much for the episode. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I learned a lot, even just hearing you two go back and forth too. It was really insightful. So excited to see where Bigtree goes, and I'm excited to follow along the journey and also be a part of the journey with Biography Health, just helping Bigtree Medical. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining us on the Precision Medicine Made Simple podcast. If this episode inspired you to learn more about your health, please leave us a review and share the podcast with a friend. Your feedback helps spread the word about the power of precision medicine. Remember, taking action today can lead to a healthier tomorrow. See you next time.